Good afternoon and welcome to the Hibs Observer pre-match briefing with myself, Liam Bryce, joined by Matty Fairnie to look ahead to Hibs versus Celtic in the Scottish Premiership. Early kick-off on Saturday, another big game for Hibs, probably, undoubtedly the biggest test yet in terms of keeping this unbeaten run going, now up to 12 games in all competitions. Matty, first of all, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
I'm really good, thanks, Liam. Yeah, how are you?
Not too bad at all. Looking forward to this one on Saturday. I think it'll be a real kind of measure of where Hibs have got themselves to under David Gray. Just first of all, though, a word as always for our sponsor, Good Vibes Giveaways. They're proud to sponsor the Hibs Observer and offer fantastic prizes to fans of the club. Prizes will change weekly and include tech and gadgets, days out, weekends away, tax-free cash, and even Oasis tickets. So you can get your tickets now at www.goodvibesgiveaways.com. So, Matty, Celtic coming to Easter Road on Saturday. Hibs on a long unbeaten run. Celtic obviously running away with the league title. Two of the kind of form teams in the Scottish Premiership. I mean, how are you feeling ahead this? What's your kind of broad take on how this one could go?
Good question. We're at home, so you always have a bit of optimism going into a home game against Celtic. I think when you go to Parkhead, it's a much more difficult game. It feels good to be playing them on a Saturday rather than a Sunday. That feels like an unusual thing. And it's lunchtime kickoff, so um, I was quite impressed with Celtic through the week when they played, plucky Bayern Munich. You see Celtic making the noises about, the difference in financing. You know the irony when they come to Easter Road on the next game. But I thought they were really good, and I think if that's my worry is that they come to Easter Road with a wee sense of injustice that they played so well over in Germany, got kicked out the tie the way they did it with the last kick of the ball, and we become a bit of a punch bag for them to sort of take out their frustrations. So that's like my worst case scenario is that scenario plays out. What I'm hoping for is that it's totally gutted them, and they're all sort of emotionally and physically exhausted for it, and we can take advantage.
Yeah, aye. I think that's the kind of scenario you've got to cling to, because I mean it will have been a real physically grueling tie for them. I mean, you kind of even taking it backwards. They had that tie. They had a domestic game at the weekend. The first game against Bayern. They've kind of been playing, I think, kind of twice a week for quite a while now, Celtic. And you think that maybe it's kind of a foregone conclusion now that they're going to win the title. But you'd think there's maybe going to be a couple of wee bumps along the road. I think they had a couple of guys come off injured, if I'm thinking right. I think Nicholas Kuhn, who's obviously been possibly the best player this season, he came off injured. There might be a wee doubt around him. And I think, as well, you think they'd maybe have to make a kind of few changes round about the side. Is it, just to kind of freshen things up? I think I was looking at the stats for the game just to see, because on that point, is there a chance that they might be a bit burnt out? I think they only made 2 subs in the game.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys there who might play again, who have already gone through a grueling 90 minutes. Could have been extra time. They'd probably been better for Hibs if they did take them to extra time. But then I suppose the flip side to that, isn't it, is they do have this depth of squad that means they can, certainly domestically, they have been able to drop guys in and out, and it's not really made much of a difference. So it's pretty hard to say which way it'll go, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, definitely that injury to Kuhn sort of restored my faith in voodoo.
Had it been shaken for some reason?
I think that what you've seen with Celtic this season and why they've done well in Europe is that they've strengthened the squad so that they make changes. Like your players like McCowan, who obviously we tried to buy in the summer window. He's slotted right into that team. They don't really appear to be that much weaker. I think it was maybe down the slope on their podcast. They looked at testing the theory of whether Celtic had been weaker in their post-European matches this season, and I think they'd won them all. So it doesn't necessarily reflect. Although they didn't play Bayern Munich, in all of the games preceding. I think that it was like a physically exhausting game for them. But I think it's a tough ask. I mean, Celtic are so far ahead of everybody in Scottish football just now, and they have that depth of squad. They really, it's not even like under when we had Lennon in charge and we were able to beat them or get draws off them, and it felt we were a wee bit closer to them. I think you look at how much they've accelerated away from everybody sort of season on season after that.
Yeah,
It's a big ask, but not impossible. I mean, you saw Queen's Park go to Ibrox and beat Rangers, and you have to look at these results. Even Celtic getting a draw in Germany, you look at these results and you know it's not impossible. I mean, just because they spend more money and have better players, it doesn't mean that on the day you can't do something
yeah.
against them. And I think that's what Hibs have to cling on to.
Yeah, you have to make it all. I know it sounds obvious, but you have to make it all about that day and that 90 minutes rather than the context around it. You know, you could look at the value of their squad, you can look at the depth. You know, they're bringing sometimes £6-9 million players off the bench, but you just kind of have to focus on. Again, it's that kind of cliched thing, but the game that's in front of you, just playing 11v11 and kind of trying to block out everything else. Because I think it's always been the key in these games for, I think, most teams in the Scottish Premiership, that if you don't go into it with any sort of belief about yourself, then you'd be as well, kind of not turning up. You need to, whether it's misplaced belief or not, you need to be able to believe that you can go and
Yeah,
beat Celtic. And I think Hibs, with the run they've been on, are, they've got to be in a really good place psychologically. I think there's definitely momentum building there. Over the kind of 10 game, well, certainly momentum building, so not probably, certainly momentum has been built over that 10 game unbeaten run. I was maybe just kind of thinking about Sunday's game there, which kind of sapped the life out of, I think, everybody on the pitch and everybody who, who watched it. But I mean, we're talking about, Celtic maybe flagging a wee bit physically, but we just kind of touched on briefly before we went live about, Hibs squad at the moment. I think, based on David Gray's injury update earlier this week, he's got Joe Newell back in full training. Dylan Levitt has trained after missing the St Mirren game, and he expects to have, Marvin Ekpateta and Eli Yuan rejoining the group as of next week. So I think in a few weeks down the line, he's probably going to have more options to freshen things up. But sort of recently, in a lot of positions, a lot of key areas, that hasn't really been the case. I know Kieran Bowie's back, but you can see how careful they're being with his minutes. Kugarevich is back in amongst it as well in the forward areas, but hasn't kind of featured an awful lot. I felt like, as well as it just being a generally terrible game against St Mirren last week, that I feel that there was a few players who do look a wee bit jaded, who have played a lot of games over this past, since almost kind of, you think kind of since the end of December or even
yeah,
earlier.
going back to
There's not
Christmas.
been too much variation, because David Gate, he just hasn't had the options. So is it been catching up with Hibs a wee bit as well recently, do you think?
I think so. I think what you notice it is in our attacking play, where you need that
Mhm.
sort of burst of speed or energy, and the wee bit of magic to create something. Because we created nothing against St Mirren. We didn't create loads against Ayr. We won the game 1-0, but we've gone from a team who were scoring sort of 2 or 3 goals fairly regularly to now scraping 5 or 6 chances in a game, or no shots on goal, or on target, as we saw on Sunday. So I think there's definitely some fatigue there, and I think where you notice it is definitely in that midfield position. I think when you don't have Levitt as a backup to Newell, and you're bringing in Quan, then the quality drops. I just don't think there's a good pairing between Quan and Chiantis.
Mhm.
And I think Campbell, whose game is all about energy, if he's a bit tired as well, then that midfield three just doesn't work. So I really hope that we've got Levitt at least available for Saturday's game.
Yeah, because I mean, you bring Levitt in there. I think there has been a kind of nice balance between him and Triantis. You're obviously looking at getting Eli Yuan back in the mix before long, because it kind of has felt a wee bit. I don't know if you agree. For me, in a couple of games recently, that teams have maybe cottoned on to, if you can stop Nicky Cadden affecting the game, then you do take away quite a significant
Mhm.
amount of Hibs threat at the moment.
Yeah, he's not been the same since his nose injury as well. I don't know whether how
Yeah.
much it affects you playing with one of these masks on, or well, I thought he struggled for form since he broke his nose, and maybe that's a bit understandable. Like, I've never tried to play football with a broken nose before, but it doesn't look fun. But definitely, like we saw it, some men nullified our wide areas, and it totally blunted the whole team. So um, I think Celtic don't play the same way. Though
No.
Celtic press you.
Yeah,
They'll let
different
you
game.
they'll let you play, and the press and try to take the ball off you that way rather than sort of stifling the play. So that might play into to our advantage. And we've actually played quite well against Celtic in the earlier games this
Mhm.
season as well. Definitely the last one at Parkhead, we could have been a couple of goals up before things went wrong. It was it's one of these things that they need to look at those games and figure out what went well and see how we capitalise on that as well. So yeah, I agree. Nicky Cadden getting nullified sort of blunts the attack, but I don't think Celtic play that way, and we might be able to capitalise.
Yeah, because I think because it was a bit more open when Hibs went to Celtic Park, as you said, and Celtic will try and press you. They're not going to look to stifle the game or just frustrate you. Like I think you kind of saw what Hibs were. I know, the result at the end of the day still got beat 3-0, but that game at Celtic Park, there was a bravery about Hibs on the ball in terms of how they moved it. I think there was that one chance. I think it was the one that eventually. I know Kugarevich had the two real glaring ones, but it was the one that fell to Joe Newell.
Yeah,
that day as well. I think that came at the end of a move that was about 30 odd passes, and I think for me, what you'd like to see Hibs do is is to kind of show that bravery again, like to be able to take the ball and try and pass it, and not again, I think it will be a much different game in terms of Hibs' attacking approach to St Mirren last week, where they were kind of going long more often than not. But they've shown that they can, they can be effective on the ball against Celtic. And I think, would you kind of expect them to try, or would you want to see them try and do that again? That kind of sort of that more courageous approach, because it did work to a certain extent at Celtic Park.
Yeah, definitely. I think actually it was one of the features of Celtic's play through the week there that they were brave on the ball against Bayern, and it showed that even though there was the better team in front of them, because Celtic remembered their strengths, they were able to go and affect the game. Hibs need to do the same. Like we need to be brave on the ball and not just do this kind of kick it with your face in, or clear it and hope for the best, or hit the channels. I think we're a good enough team that we can get the foot on the ball, try to retain possession when we've got it. But I think crucially it's about understanding that we can hurt Celtic and being brave enough to commit men forward to do it. We can't really get in that position where you've maybe got Bowie or Gale or Boyle, whoever it is that's playing up top, picking up the ball with nobody there to support them. We need players to sort of flood forward as well. And I think Celtic sometimes look vulnerable when teams attack them. I mean, the stats probably don't bear that out, but that's because I think a lot of teams don't attack them that much. A lot of teams are kind of happy just to sit in and hope for that counter attack. And I think Hibs have got that. We've got enough about us that we can go and be brave going forward against them.
Yeah, because I think I know I don't like using the term free hit, but it's kind of. I think David Graham probably he'll know that a lot of the teams round about Hibs aren't going to take any points from this same fixture. So it's kind of it's not. You're not going. I don't think it's going to have a significant bearing on where Hibs end up these games against Celtic. As you say, they're just so far ahead of everybody else. If you get beat, then it's kind of it's kind of the difference in resources and quality. That's the kind of way it probably should go 9 times out of 10. You're kind of hoping for that one time where they don't show up. The circumstances could go in Hibs' way this weekend, as we've talked about, given Celtic's exertions in the Champions League. But I think just in a kind of broader, we might have touched on this a bit last week, but in a kind of broader perspective, this sort of run coming up, you've got Celtic and then away to Dundee United. It's kind of shaping up to be really quite defining, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely huge. I think Dundee United are away to Motherwell.
New
Tomorrow,
manager Motherwell.
Yeah, so I mean Motherwell might get the bounce, but they have also been horrendous. So with us playing Celtic, if results go to form, you would probably see Dundee United beat Motherwell and us lose to Celtic, and then there's a 6-point gap going to Tannadice, and we can't allow that to go to 9 points. Ideally, what we want to do is take at least a point on Saturday, but like if we could get 3 points, it shows how valuable it would be, because it stops. It means we could go to Tannadice looking to get level on points rather than to claw back a gap. So it is. I think it's a massive point in the season, because we've got after Dundee United, we've got the Derby, we've also got Rangers in that coming up, and I think it was Kilmarnock and St Johnstone or Dundee. I can't remember off the top of my head the other fixtures that we've got, but a couple of very winnable ones at Easter Road. So I think if we can win at Tannadice and win the 2 Easter Road, I'm quite confident that we'll get top 6, beat Hearts as well. Obviously, that's like a non-negotiable. You just have to do
that. Absolutely. And just we kind of talked about the injury situation. It's a good time to have players start filtering back into the squad, because this is when people start to feel the pace of a long season, isn't it? And if you've got guys coming in like Ewan, Nick Pateta, Joe Newell, Kieran Bowie hitting kind of full fitness, full match fitness, it is a good time to have options then to freshen it up with guys who are going to come back in with sort of champing at the bit, if you like.
Yeah, I think there's the aspect of freshening up. I think also the competition for places is important, because we need players that know they're not going to play every week if their form drops. And at the moment, there's probably a couple of players in there that are kind of, well, they know their place is secure because they don't have somebody knocking on the door to take their position, or when the players have come in to have the opportunity, they've not really taken it. So, an ideal time to have for the run-in to have these players coming back. Yuan's going to be massive if we get him back in. I mean, it's been a really disappointing season for him on the injury front because he's missed so much of it. But when he has featured, you see the difference in our form. So getting him back in the team is great. And Joe Newell's been a big miss as well. Like, I think if we can get him back in, then we're in a really good position.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said, I don't know if it's going to be kind of too soon, excuse me, for the likes of Joe Newell to feature. He is back in full training, but I think that to go straight back into the starting lineup against Celtic when he's been out for so long, not too sure. Chance he might make the bench. I'm, again, kind of speculating. We'll find out a bit more from David Gray at his press conference. That will be from around 1 p.m, the press conference today. Do keep an eye on our website for live updates from that, and then a kind of fuller look at it later in the evening. We'll hear from one of the first team squad as well as David Gray building into tomorrow's game. So do keep an eye on the website. But for now, we are going to leave it there. Matty, thanks as always for joining us, and thanks to everybody who's tuned in. If you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel just yet, kind of implore you to hit that button to help us continue to grow the channel, and it also means you'll get a notification every time we go live. We'll be back just after full time tomorrow for reaction to the result. Hopefully another positive one for Hibs. As I said, the biggest test yet and keeping this unbeaten run going. So we shall see what happens at Easter Road tomorrow. If you're heading to the game, or indeed anywhere you're watching, I hope you enjoy it. Hope you have a good weekend, folks, and thank you very much for joining us today. We'll catch you again soon. Cheers.